This week, we're discussing AI in gaming and discussing Xbox's potential to push their games beyond their own consoles. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer. And with me is a man who has unlimited power. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, you think you're cheeky, huh?
Yeah.
More power now than I did yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just goofing. I'm really happy to have you back.
Joke's on you. I got an episode off.
Yeah. And now this, just to, as I like to always do, give a peek behind the curtain. This is a pre-record because I was not available the week that this episode comes out to do our normal recording. So basically, it's like you get, well, no, you just get a week off. That's just that's just
still recording right now.
Whatever. All right. I really missed you doing the journey into games with my brother.
I'm excited to hear it.
It was fun. It was fun to like, you know, especially because it was my brother, right? So like, I kind of knew and expected a lot of his answers and stuff like that. But anyway, at the end of it, I was saying, you know, hopefully you'll be good and you'll be back for this episode and all that, and we'll do the, you know, current events of the week we're recording, despite it being a week prior for when the episode comes out and all that shit. You know, I was like, and if Mike can't, I'm gonna have to figure something out. And my brother threw his hat in the ring, and I just wouldn't have wanted to do back-to-back episodes with him, if I'm being totally honest. So here we are.
Well, I'm at least appreciative that he took one for the team.
But I'm happy you're here. Tell me about your past week in games. What have you been playing?
Well, I guess the big one is I beat Phantom Liberty.
Oh, nice! Let's go.
Awesome. Loved it. Loved every second of it.
So good.
Though I'm glad I thought about it. I guess I'm going to say this is kind of a word of caution and not really a spoiler. If you go down a certain path and you don't finish doing everything else in the game, like it's literally just game over. There is an end game. Fortunately, I got very nervous and created another manual save. I don't think it would have mattered. I think I still could have like gone into my main save and like loaded back. But I was very surprised by that. But also a nice little bit of closure.
Did you happen to, not to get too into Cyberpunk, but did you happen to go back? I can't remember if we talked about this, and like go to like play the end game of the base game again by chance?
I have not done that again since the first time I beat it.
So it's like well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to spoil it for you or not.
Should I go back and do it?
Yes, and then let me know when you do, because I think there's a new option there, or it's one that I didn't recognize having been there previously. Okay. Like, you know what I'm talking about when you like go to
Yeah.
You're
talking to Johnny
on the rooftop.
Yeah.
Yep. So when you're there and you like have when you're making your choice for which end game path you want to go down of the main game, there's, I think, a new option, and I don't know when it got added. It probably wasn't technically Phantom Liberties, but when I loaded up Cyberpunk again to do Phantom Liberties, I was trying to figure out which save to use, and so I just opted for. I thought I just needed to like do that and like whatever. Anyway, I ended up on that rooftop again at the point where you can make your decision because I believe that was a manual save I had used that it could do the different branching paths, and I realized that what seemed to be a new option, and it's very interesting. So I would recommend.
Did you do it?
I did, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I'll go try
it's
that.
not very long. So
Unfortunately, I don't have a manual save at that point, so I'll have to go back and do the whole song and dance, but that's fine.
well, it should at least put you that you like are going up the elevator of
Members.
yeah, and
Yeah. And that's just really a dialogue, I think.
yeah, you can just skip all that. But yeah, I would like to have that conversation, figure out if I'm crazy or not. But I don't want to say anything in case it was actually new because it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll do that before the next time we record.
But yeah, so you liked Phantom Liberties overall?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I was really overwhelmed, and this was just with the 2.0, I don't know if it's the 2.0 or the 2.1 upgrade, but like, I was a little overwhelmed with things changing, but I think I got it pretty well figured out. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Now I'm just going back. I have a couple gigs that I still have to do for Mr. Hands, so I'm just working on those now.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was really good. Played that. We'll continue playing that, I'm sure. And then actually, when our power went out the other night, um, we played Mario Party on the Switch, just like on the actual device itself with Joy Cons, and that was kind of fun.
Nice.
So we did that. And then last night, this will probably be a shocker.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I think I have some semblance of an idea because I got a notification that my friend Mike signed into PlayStation Network.
Yes.
So what were you doing?
I was playing Spider-Man 2 on my PS5.
Nah, you're lying to me.
Yeah, I'm full of shit.
Woo!
Woo!
I got really nervous because the package that I sent you was a PS5. So I was like, if you actually already have one, I.
That right?
Oh man. No, it's not.
Could be, according to the weight on the USPS website.
No, definitely not. Well, I don't know what weight did Shelby set all that up. A PS5 weighs about 50 pounds. So
I don't know that it actually says anything.
Oh, okay. Anyway, what game were you playing? Sorry.
We set the PSVR up again for the first
nice.
time in well, not the first time in forever. The first time in a while. Well, a couple of things. I got it set up. Of course, I had to do like hours of updates.
Of course.
And then played some Beat Saber, which they must have updated because it plays so much better now.
Really?
Yeah, like it's noticeable how much better it is. So we got that set up. We got the PSVR set up, and then I also was going through the PlayStation Store, which on the PlayStation 4 is just such a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad. It's so slow. But was flipping through it, and I saw that Miles Morales was on sale for like $20. And I said, okay, I've waited long enough. I still don't have a PS5. I really want to play this game. I'm just going to get it for PS4.
Nice.
So I went to buy it, and then I saw it was included in the PlayStation Plus collection. So I'm like, okay, what would it cost me to get the PlayStation Plus collection, and what games are on it? And I saw Ghost of Tsushima was on there. And it said like for the rest of the year, which for me, that's until September. I could upgrade to extra for like $36 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, there you go. That gets me those 2 games, and then probably some others. I think the new Horizon game is on there as well.
Yep.
I don't know what that's going to look like on PS4, but I can at least try it.
Yeah. It's definitely
But
worth
we'll
it
see.
if you. It's definitely worth it for like the sense that you could just upgrade, right, for the remainder. And if you like wait long enough games will be on there that will warrant and make it worth it, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's dope. I'm
I was
excited.
impressed with that collection, honestly.
Yeah, they have a lot. I mean, again, like it in a lot of ways it rivals Game Pass, I would say, in terms of quality of games. I think just like the thing that helps set Game Pass apart is, one, you can, like, if you do Ultimate and pay the price, you can have you can have it on PC, as well. So like it can like span to another system if you have it, which is like great value. And I think because PlayStation hiked their prices, um, I think Ultimate is like cheaper than the premium, which premium only gets you the remasters and classics and all that stuff. Regardless, but obviously day one releases also is just like such value that you don't even get close to getting on PlayStation. Like if you got Spider-Man 2 and God of War Ragnarok and stuff like that day one, it's like then I would say they're equal, and in value. And then for me personally, PlayStation is like quite clearly better just because I'm a fan of all those games. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that they do it. I definitely get a ton of benefit out of it.
Yeah, if I had a PS5, I would probably keep the upgrade because I just pay for Essential mostly so I can keep telling myself I'm gonna play the Vita and PS3 and PS4 games I've gotten over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if I had a PS5, I would definitely be paying for at least extra. I think is the second tier that I got, and then there's premium or something like that is the
Yeah.
third tier.
Yep. Yeah, which premium isn't. I wouldn't. Premium isn't worth it just for the fact that like all you're getting by going from extra to premium is like PS1, PS2, and then certain like remasters slash remakes for PS4, PS5 will get locked behind the premium tier, even though they're, I don't know, it's like it makes sense, but also it's like a little convoluted with the thought process. But just for those things alone, I don't think it's necessarily worth it. But when you think about it from the mindset of like, it's just like $3 extra a month or something like that. I don't know what the actual math is. For me, I'm just like, whatever. I don't really care. And like, if I get to play, I'm trying to think what game I played. One, it's helping me for my 100 platinums for sure. But also,
Can't put a price on it.
yeah, I can't put a price on that. But what did I just play? Was it like the Resistance game or something like that? I played because it was on premium and it was leaving. So I don't know. It's like it's one of those things where it's like I'm gonna tell myself that I'll get around to playing these like PS1, PS2, PSP classics and stuff. But I still really haven't dipped into it quite yet because there's just so much on the extra tier alone to play through.
Yeah, when I was going through, there was like only a handful of games I saw that were only available on premium. One of them was Tearaway 2, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, that is weird.
Don't know why that one. I mean, that game's one old, two wasn't really ever that big. So just weird. I think I bought that game, so it doesn't really make a difference to me. But
Right. Well, cool. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to hear you're back on PlayStation and getting the opportunity to play through some of their first party titles.
yeah, I figure while I beat Cyberpunk, I might as well find something to do other than getting back into Starfield. I think I just like I was playing Cyberpunk and I was really thinking about Starfield because that was gonna be my plan. I was just gonna jump right back into Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
And just going from one massive game to another feels so daunting, especially when Cyberpunk is just so much better, in my opinion.
I hear you. I think that definitely makes a ton of sense. And honestly, you have a really nice palate cleanser with Miles Morales because it's not,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, it's not overly long, it's not overly large. It's kind of it's. I think it still might be like the perfect game of the 3 Spider-Man games that are out now. It's like it does exactly what it needs to do. It is like the best way to put it. It's not necessarily the best one, but it achieves what I think I want in a game the best, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's like it's like a perfect game, I think, to like jump from like this massive open world game to something that's a little more linear. Obviously, you can go around and like do all, like side stuff, and there's collectibles and things like that, but it moves so well. So nice. Anything else?
I feel like there was something else, but now I can't remember. Um, we'll leave it at that for now.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I thought it was a good assortment.
Um, yeah, definitely. And I think there's some exciting stuff to hear about. I didn't really I'm trying to think if I played anything too exciting. I don't really think so. I kind of was back into Hogwarts Legacy, and then I talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago or something like that. How I'm trying to do 100 platinums that are like solely on the PlayStation Plus, like library of games, and I did get to play some absolute dog shit, but I also played Jet: The Far Shore, which is like a longer game, and it was one that was interesting, and like I thought I remembered at the time when it was like getting announced and stuff like that, or when it first came out. I thought it looked good, so I got to play that. I played this game called Omno, and both of those were pretty fun. But like other than that, I was playing like My Friend Peppa Pig.
Love it.
Yeah, and trying to think what else. One thing is Shelby and I are going to be jumping back into It Takes Two, because even though I already own it, it's leaving the PlayStation Plus like library. So it's like the whole like challenge that I have in place is that like I have to platinum a game while it's at least on the service, regardless of if I own it already or not. But I also need to earn a majority of the trophies this year. So it's kind of like a little like cheeky one, because even if we don't get around to it by, I think, well, it'll be by the time this episode comes out, it'll already be off the service. But as long as we get around to like platinuming the game before it's off the service, in my head, I'm like, it counts for the 100. So, but yeah, I played a lot of different games, but I didn't really play anything else that's like worth talking about a ton. So, all right. So there's been some, well, I guess it's been relevant for a while now as AI has kind of come into the forefront of a lot of conversations. And naturally, it's also crept its way into uh, the video game space. So I thought, especially as it seems to be a heavy topic of discussion here of late, and it's something that we haven't actually really talked about, I don't think, a ton. Just like what some of the general concerns and also potential benefits, I think, AI could potentially have in the video game space. again, I think a lot of people are understandably very excited about AI, but I think there's also reason to have a ton of reservations about it. So I thought we could take a little bit of time and just kind of give our thoughts that everybody wants to hear. Two white guys giving their thoughts on how something is going to impact others.
Sure.
um
Who better but us?
so I guess yeah, like I don't know, like should we talk about I guess the obvious concerns for it?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this to some degree of nauseum in previous episodes, but um, I think there are some very potent points given labor disputes in other industries as well that has kind of started to merge with AI in video games.
Mhm.
Um, I guess just that some of the things I know we've talked about in the past is using AI for like redundant background art.
Mhm.
Like you think about the original Mario game where the clouds were just white versions of the shrubs,
Mhm.
the bushes that were on the base level. Like, okay, placing that stuff, you don't really like. I doubt there's a human that really wants to do that. Over like actually designing something new and creative,
Mhm.
which again will always should at least always be a market for that. Um, and then of course with game preservation. I know we talked about this beforehand and decided to cut it from the show, but I think just calling it out quickly what NVIDIA is doing, basically with AI scaling, with I think it's with their RTX GPUs. I know they're calling it like the RTX program or whatever, but
Mhm.
just allowing some upscaling of existing games.
Right.
Good use case, I think, in my opinion. Um, and then we get into like voice acting. Uh, companies thinking that because they paid an actor or actress once for their voice and they can create a model off of it and use it in future products without paying them, no bueno.
Yeah, and that's actually like major forefront because there was a deal that was just struck to basically allow for AI to be used in um voiceover instances.
Yeah, and I think with consent, okay.
Sure.
But there should, regardless of consent or not, be royalties.
Of course. Who
I
it
mean,
was sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a likeliness issue at that point.
Do you remember the story that like Troy Baker was basically like reading a dictionary and like recording
Mm-hmm.
it and then he was going to like basically use that effectively and like give that to like developer. It was him, right? It was Troy Baker who was doing
Yeah,
that,
it
and like
was.
and he was saying that like that way he can be in like all of these different projects without actually like because it's like too much of a time suck because he was in everything there for a couple of years and he was talking about
Mm-hmm.
doing something like that. And it's just like that like it makes somehow I can wrap my head around that more so than this use of like AI to completely cut out the person and like the work therein that is done. And like to your point, it's just like if a deal can be struck where if you're going to use my voice, but I'm still going to get paid for it, you know, great. I don't care. That's fine. But
Yeah,
it's the idea of being able to like skirt the line of like of actually having to pay somebody. And I think that's where rightfully so a lot of people get so upset with like AI discussions.
right. I mean, you could use. I mean, hell, you could have an intern at a developer read the dictionary and then just use AI to augment the voice however you want.
Mhm.
And then you never have to pay voice actors again. Um, I don't think that's necessarily a good use case. What I was going to say was this could be an awesome opportunity for voice actors because they could have passive income through this. Like, just read a dictionary in your regular voice,
Right.
and then it can be augmented. However, a developer needs it once they buy like the right to use it. And I think it would have to be on like a one-time use basis.
Right.
Like you don't get it in perpetuity.
Right. Yeah.
You essentially sign a contract for one game, and then you have to keep doing that if you want to reuse that person's model.
It sounds great in concept, but like you just know, like, we all know that it's just not the it's not the point or purpose or what anybody's true goal actually is when it comes to utilizing AI.
Right.
Again, it's like it's almost always used. I think especially in the way that we're talking, it's always used as a cost cutting maneuver. Obviously, AI and machine learning and stuff like that has been in games for a while, right? Like when you are going against the computer
Right.
in
Pong, essentially.
yeah,
Since
like
then.
yeah, right. Like when you're going against the computer, you are going against some sort of AI, like if you're playing Madden, you're against the AI. And stuff like that. So it's not to say like, if somebody ever says like AI has no place in video games, it's like, well, you're not necessarily taking a necessary nuanced approach, because obviously as AI improves, there's so many amazing use cases for it in gaming especially. But when it comes to the artistic side of things and the actual creation in that sense, in the art sense, behind it, it's somewhat depressing that we look to try and remove the human behind that, with AI. And there's a really interesting, and I think this like perfectly sums it up, um, which is it was Magic the Gathering, or it was Wizards of the Coast, who I believe are behind Magic the Gathering, and they were releasing some like promotional art, and everybody got up in arms. They were saying that it was like AI generated, and what it actually was um, an artist had made the like general concept, and then they had used like Adobe's very specific like generative AI to help fill in certain pieces to like, you know, to elevate the piece that they had
Mm-hmm.
originally created. And it's like, you know, that's in my mind, that's like the perfect use case, right? Which is like uh an artist is able to, make their entire landscape, and then, that one thing that they just can't quite get, or like they can like get the base of it and then tweak it to however it fits their piece. Using AI just to straight up be like some fucking Chad who's like, give me Supergirl, and then her feet are backwards because you're not building you're not building anything for it to work off of or anything like that. And then you're just like posting it and being like, look what I made. It's just like that's where I
Right.
get so much frustration with this like fucking AI and everything that it's being used for currently.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be used to replace. It should be used to augment.
Yeah, or like
It
as like a nice sweetener. It's not the
right,
cup of coffee, but it is the creamer.
right. I mean, let's say some game developer is on X one day, and they see somebody who is an artist who um, drew some really awesome character, and they're like, "Hey, I want to use this in my game. Can I buy the right to use the general idea of this character?" And then, they can use AI to change it however they need to fit the game.
Hmm.
There are options to do things like that. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Right. Again,
It's a
using
shame.
it, yeah, using it to like fill in the gaps, great. Using it to just like completely build from ground zero, just shitty.
I'm almost interested to see like what the first generative AI game looks like.
I mean,
And
it's gonna be dog shit.
well, that's my assumption. And so like I think once we get that out of the way, people will be like, okay, we know we can't do that now. Like,
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole issue is that like the people who are championing, did I say that right?
champion.
Championing?
I think you just forgot the end.
The people who are champagning
And yeah,
AI the most aren't putting in like any additional effort. They literally are just taking what the machine spits out, which again is like always at its core just like dog shit. And they're just like, look at what I made. Uh and like that's what it'd be. There would be no additional work done. It's literally like doing the least amount of work, and it shows, right? Like you get what you pay for, which is nothing. Um it somebody did like a completely AI like short movie or something like that, and like it's just a fucking slideshow that they created, and they're like, "This is pretty. This is the best thing I've created so far." And I'm just like, "This looks like dog shit." Like,
yeah.
so, but yeah, to your point, like it's like we need those people to just like go away, and of course they're the ones who are most excited. It's the whole thing with like blockchain
They're the
and
early
things like
movers.
that. Yeah, exactly. They're the people who get the most excited, and they fucking ruin it for everybody else, and then
It's funny
it
because they're
dies
the
down.
most excited and they're the first movers, but they're really the vocal minority because they know nothing about it. It was the same with blockchain. Like,
Right.
it's the same reason NFTs got so big was because any loser could figure it out. And unfortunately, it diminished the technology.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing that's, all those losers who are into NFTs are now moving to AI because, they think they're some tech genius PhD and really they're just looking for clout.
And or think they can make like a quick buck off of this thing. And again, it's
Right.
like
You ask them to explain it and they just copy and paste to ChatGPT what is AI.
right. Right.
It's like kill yourself, please. The
And
amount
they
of times, and I hate to say it, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on a complete tangent here. The amount of times I want to comment kill yourself on LinkedIn is outstanding.
in game, of course.
In what?
In game. Kill yourself in game. I think for legal reasons we have to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like pay the $500,
in GTA.
put a gun to your head, and shoot yourself.
In GTA.
In GTA.
Right, of course. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
No, but
Oh,
like
I was talking about GTA role playing.
right, yeah.
There's a whole LinkedIn thing. It's part of Life Invader. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. It's no, but you're so right though, like because it is so frustrating because it's like you're not willing to put in the work, and and then to like bring it to bring it fully back to games and stuff. Like I again, I think people just see it as this way of like being able to just completely. It's just so depressing because like the human element of art in any form is like the most important part of it in my mind. Like I don't know, there's nothing moving about a machine just simply like stealing inspiration or whatever you want to call it from other pieces and then just lumping it all together to create something. There's no it invokes no emotion. I know there was no human element behind it. I know there's no story to build from it. And I think I just find it so depressing that we're just so willing to take things that people enjoy and again almost require a human element behind, and we're just so willing to replace that rather than finding the mundane in all of this life in general, right? And finding ways to replace those things so people can get to doing the things that they generally or genuinely enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's borderline depressing. And again, bring it back to games. I think like because AI art is, and I hate calling it that, but like is such a massive thing in the zeitgeist right now, is that people are just seeing it as this opportunity to replace entirely, and it's just the absolute wrong way, I think, of utilizing uh the power that we have.
It's also like what's getting frustrating for me is just the lack of appreciation for art now.
That's yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not easy to do. It takes, I mean, it's something that you can learn, yes, but I also feel like it's something that's inherent to you. If you're a really good artist, like I think people find it cliche, but I think it's something that you have to be some degree of born with. Um, and it's just, that's the one thing I'm fearful of is like we look in 10 years from now, everything is AI generated. Are we okay with that? Or are we just like super depressed now because there's no real art? There's nothing to look at. It's all just product, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like you can learn and you can but that's the thing, right? That's what's so great about it, is that like not everybody just starts off creating, fucking uh the Sistine Chapel, right? Like you have to work to get to that level, right?
Right.
You know, everybody starts out drawing doodles of stuff, and then eventually it like can work its way to something more. And that's like also the beauty behind, right, the human element of it, is that like you can see the actual growth of it over time. I guess theoretically, as the machine learns and gets better, you'll be able to see the growth of it, because again, it'll get hands right finally. But like and there's just like something about like how every single AI image kind of has that like same feel behind it, which is just like just gives me a dread feeling. And I hate to think about the fact that like there are genuine artists who would create work like that previously, and it would take an immense amount of time to do it and to get the details and everything like that. And now if I see something like that, I'm also just sitting here going like, is this AI? Because I feel a sense of dread because it looks so similar to anything that is AI generated.
Right. Have you seen, I think it's a Salesforce commercial with
The Matthew McConaughey. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up. Have you noticed the shoes are backwards?
Yeah.
It bothers me every fucking time.
And, I just saw that commercial this past weekend, and I think Justine was sitting in the room with me. And after the commercial, I was like, I have no idea what that commercial was for. Because, like, Salesforce has a very ironic, like, marketing demeanor. So, like, but having Matthew McConaughey in the commercial doesn't help. He's also got a very, like, ironic marketing demeanor. Like, you don't know if he's trying to be serious or, like, making fun of a situation. And I'm like, I don't know if Salesforce was trying to say generative AI in terms of like making pictures or in general, I don't know, is a joke and we're just going to make light of it. Or if they're saying, we know how to use AI, and if you want to advance your business, work with us, like use our CRM because we know we have AI. Like, but I sat so quietly on the couch after I saw that commercial. I was like, I don't know what they were trying to get at.
All
And
I
like,
can take away from it is that when it pops up and says Salesforce and it starts as zoomed in on the shoe, all I can see is for like the next 16 shots of it changing, the shoe is backwards, and that is the only thing
yeah,
I take away from it, and it fucking hurts. It like hurts me. It makes my chest hurt.
I'm googling right now. Like,
Were they serious?
yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna search.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's again, it's a shame because like one, we again, like just to reel it back in. Like, we know it's in games. We know the use for it is great. Like, um, having like some sort of system where like the computer, the AI of the game is like learning your moves, right? And like getting better at like, I'm just thinking of like a stealth game, right? Where like you're going into the bad guy's warehouse and you take it out in such a way so then the next time as you're getting closer to the headquarters or something like that, the next warehouse or level design that you go into has something that is specifically set up to impede your progress based on how you completed the first one, right? And like it's because the villain is like learning like, oh, I know your tricks, um and like having like a use case like that and like learning off of your style and stuff like that is like such an incredible and like worthwhile use case. And then to like even go a step back and to like think about it from like a gaming perspective, right? Where it's like if or not gaming, sorry, like a sports perspective, right? Where it's like if you're playing Madden and you keep calling a defensive play to stop the pass, right? And you just keep doing it over and over again. If the computer somehow is still just like passing the ball, right, and calling pass plays, it's like that's not fun, Like
Mm-hmm.
no, the computer should learn like I'm just going to run the damn ball and like keep running it until you find a way to stop the run, right? And like it should be learning off of that. Great use cases, using potentially using AI to have a different fan instead of the same fan every three in the stands. Great use case. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Not see like the same motion going 3 rows back. So I do have one quick conundrum that I would kind of like to hear your thoughts on.
Sure.
And that has to do with like large language model speech. So like being able to um type what you want to say to a character in game and like anything you want to say and they'll respond to it. Um I saw, I don't know if your Twitter has been inundated with this too, but a company called Rabbit, they're releasing um a little like square AI device. It's like not a phone, but kind of a phone. I don't, I don't know if you've seen that at all.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's a device that got put up for pre-orders yesterday, and I don't think anybody really knows why it exists. But before the company released this, they actually did a mod for Cyberpunk called, I think it was like the Cyberpunk Quantum Update or something like that. But it allows you to type whatever you want to say in the game.
Interesting.
And apparently it works pretty well. And like, I'm just curious as to what you think about that without trying to lead it one way or the other.
I guess if I'm thinking about it right, the idea is that then the computer character would respond uh like in a way that makes sense based on what you had typed.
Right. And I imagine there's some degree of like tuning that's involved. So like
I
you
mean,
couldn't you couldn't ask a bot about like when the next Xbox is going to come out and it actually give you a meaningful response. I
right.
think they kind of tune it to the actual story of the game.
I mean, I think like I mean, I feel like there would be a way to do something like that and be able to bake in just like so many different options based on like what is expected of a user, right? I mean, the use case for it seems pretty cool and like it could be very immersive.
Mm-hmm.
and like help to drive immersion in a game. But is it like, I don't know, I also sit here and go like, is it really necessary? Especially in a
Well,
game that has a story it's trying to tell. Like I wouldn't like I can sit here and be like, I wouldn't really want to play Cyberpunk and just be able to like respond however I want, unless the idea is then that I'm like building my own story off of it. And I really don't want to do that because that shit's gonna get out of hand real fast.
right. Well, I kind of have two thoughts on it. One, I mean, if you have it that like you have to ask questions and there's no like prompt options,
Hmm.
obviously there's labor implications because you're not going to hire writers and things like that. Um, I think my perfect implementation of it is so I'll stick to Cyberpunk 'cause I think it's a really good example because I think the dialogue in that game was super robust. So in that game, when you're having a conversation with somebody, there are like yellow options that are like the mandatory, this is what keeps driving the story forward.
Hmm.
And then there are blue options, which are just optional, additional information or just fun or things like that. I think there's a use case where like the yellow the yellow text like options are always there. That's what's
Hmm.
needed for the story so it keeps moving. You don't make a complete abomination out of it.
Hmm.
But I think you get rid of the blue options and then you can like free type in there to maybe get additional information. Because in that case, like you would use an LLM so the game could interpret what you said and then give an
Hmm.
appropriate answer. Or if there isn't one, you just give a generic, like, I don't know, or something like that. But like that kind of gives you a little extra level of immersion because you actually have to pay attention to the conversation and think of things that you need additional details on. And then you can just type or like if it's on PlayStation, like talking to the mic and have it translate.
Yeah. I
Like I
mean,
think stuff like that's cool. Or, you know, there's the romance options, like instead of just having like the same three prompts every time you want to talk to like Judy or Pan Am or any of the other romance options in Cyberpunk, like you can just type whatever you want and it's just casual conversation within certain constraints.
yeah, I
That
mean,
makes sense.
yeah, no, it does absolutely. And I think like how you laid it out is definitely a pretty um solid use case for it. My thought is, isn't that like old text based games basically? Where like,
Yeah. I kind of like Oregon Trail.
you know what I mean? Where it's like you have to think about like, oh, check out the bush to the left. And it's just like there's nothing, you know? And like a majority of the time you may receive the response of like, no, I don't know or whatever to your point, but like to have like more hidden details that you could potentially scrape by going through like conversation and stuff is like a pretty neat and like more immersive way of getting you into a game.
And I think the reason we kind of got away from that was because of consoles.
Sure.
A good solution for a keyboard and a console just really hasn't existed. Like there have been chat pads, yes, but they never really took off. But
Sure.
I think the difference now with the technology is you could use speech if you're at home, and it would be able to translate your voice a lot more accurately than it ever has been able to.
Mhm.
Or you could still use a keyboard, if that's what you wanted to do. But yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a good application for it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I
Be
mean,
interesting.
like again, like it's like one of those things where it's as we look at like advancements and stuff like that, you don't want to just completely impede progress by just like not wanting anything to change, right? Um, So like it's just a shame to me that we don't think about like further use cases outside of just the most surface level thing. How like what is the easiest thing that we can use X, Y, or Z for, instead of like thinking about it more and like figuring out how it actually will like better, the work and stuff like that. It's just like, well, how can we just replace instead?
Yeah.
It's frustrating. And it's especially frustrating because obviously we talked about it a good bit last year, and it's already, as of recording this, we're 11 days into the new year, and just already a bunch of layoffs have happened. I think somebody said that we are already a third of the way to last year's number in layoffs this year.
And that's the 11th of January.
Exactly. And it's just like to see both, to see like the rise in uh like desire to use AI coupled with the rise of layoffs is just like, again, it's just like depressing more than anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think it's a phase we're not going to be able to avoid, but I do think there will be a reckoning on the industry.
I'm sure.
I hope. Like, I hope there's a reckoning. Not that I kind of hope somebody comes to their senses and says, well, hold on.
Right.
People want to complain about unions, but a pretty solid way to avoid unions is to not use AI to replace working people.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else on AI.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Xbox?
Yeah, let's do it. Been a while.
It has been a while. So as of this recording, if you're listening to it the day that this comes out, Xbox is having a developer direct, is the name of it, correct?
Yep.
They're having that today, the 18th, I think.
Could be. I don't know.
I hope. But anyway, we're recording this before the direct, regardless of the day. So we know that that's coming as we're talking, but there have been a lot of rumors circulating about Xbox and the potential for some of their games to make their way to other consoles. I think the main one that's been talked about and that has kind of like gotten the discussion going was Hi-Fi Rush. Apparently a site like posted a rating for it or something like that for both Switch and PlayStation. Is that right?
I've definitely seen the Switch. I have not seen it for PlayStation.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it's not true. I just haven't seen it. I've really only seen the conversation around Switch.
Okay. Not the which consoles and stuff like that doesn't really matter. The idea that an Xbox game may be living somewhere beyond Xbox is kind of the purpose of this conversation, because a lot of people have really done like the pearl clutching of Xbox shouldn't put their games on other consoles. And I thought it was worth like kind of having the discussion. Is it necessarily bad for Xbox to do this? Since you're more so in the Xbox ecosystem, like what does this do to you? Like what are your thoughts on this? Do you really see this as like a major negative to Xbox? Do you see maybe it's like a bit of both? There's some positives, there's some negatives. There's only positives to gain. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really bad timing for this. At this point, I think it's just a rumor. Like, I don't think it's really been substantiated by any means. Last month, the numbers came out that the PlayStation outsold the Xbox 3-1. And so now, of course, the discourse started like, oh, Xbox is going to get out of hardware and only do software and all that. And it's a reasonable thing to think, especially now they're talking, the rumors that Hi-Fi Rush is going to be coming to other consoles. I personally, for me, I don't really care. Like I don't think every game should come to PlayStation. A game like Hi-Fi Rush, though, it was a shadow drop on Game Pass. Um, really, really well received. It got multiple Game Awards nominations.
Mm-hmm.
It's been almost a year since it was announced. Well, and came out, really. I mean, it was shadow dropped at this event last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a little later in the year, but um, I don't blame them for trying to get some more money out of it for on areas where the game would have to be bought outright. Um, I also think, releasing it on Switch is a very good strategic move as well because it was it was proof of their efforts to get into like RPG and JRPG style games and
Mm-hmm.
games that would probably appeal to like the Asian market. So, I mean, putting it on a console that's based out of the Asian market makes a lot of sense to me. I think it would do really well on the Switch. So, um, I think in this particular instance, it's a net good for Xbox. Uh, I think you had mentioned, possible rumors of like people or not even rumors, people saying that Halo is going to go to PlayStation. Like, I don't see that.
Right.
I don't see games like Halo, um, Gears of War, the Forza games. Like, I don't see those leaving Xbox. I just don't. I don't think that makes sense. But like, Hi-Fi Rush was technically a Bethesda game,
Right.
and they've already kind of proven their model is not really going to be gatekeeping Bethesda. Of course, Starfield is a console exclusive right now, but that was just such a big deal that made sense. I think with Starfield hasn't really had the continued success I think everyone was expecting. Maybe they will launch it on PlayStation and get a larger user base, so it makes sense to update it.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's such an interesting conversation to have because I feel like for some time now, basically since PlayStation has started to release games on like and do PC releases, whether or not the releases always go over well, is one thing. But I think there's something to be said about getting your games into the hands of more people, while still ensuring that like your player base um, gets the inherent value that they deserve from having bought your hardware, right? Um, I think the concept of like a game going to another like console or something like that as like an automatic negative is just kind of dumb, to put it like simply. Um, like it doesn't hurt. Like I don't understand why people act like it's hurting them specifically when that happens. But I do think like had Starfield been like across all consoles upon release, maybe Starfield's not a good example, but like yeah, if like the next Halo game was all of a sudden released across all consoles, I could understand having a gripe there because it's like what's the point of having an Xbox if like I don't if I'm not receiving like a specific benefit. If I can play every game, but then there's like specific games that I can only play on PlayStation, why wouldn't I just have a PlayStation or something like that? So I can understand like somewhat of the thought process. But yeah, I mean, I think like there's specific games and like Hi-Fi Rush makes a ton of sense, I think, to your point, where it's like this just makes sense to get it at the very least, yeah, like onto the Switch. It's like a rhythm game. Um, it's got like this like comic slash anime type art style. Two things that are going to go over well, like you said, in like the Asian market. Uh, and putting it on a console that is just like filled with those types of games. Um, yeah, great business move. I think what annoys me about this like conversation so much is that I think people just like still want to think that Xbox is like dumb and aren't fully thinking through these moves, and I just think that's such a dumb assumption to have.
I mean, Microsoft has been a business. This will be their 40th anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, for the whole organization. Like, Xbox itself isn't working in a box, you know, an
Mm-hmm.
Xbox. They have people with this experience who have seen how to get through not being a market leader, you know.
Yeah. If you
Um,
if you can't if you can't keep up with the hardware sales of your competitor, doesn't it make sense to try and capitalize on people who are in that ecosystem in some way?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, again, I think I really wouldn't be surprised if, like, do we know, is there planned DLC for Starfield?
I think there's at least one.
Okay.
Because I think if you bought the deluxe edition or whatever, you got whatever the first DLC is going to be.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, 2 years from now, right at the end of the generation, so maybe 3 years from now, I wouldn't be really that surprised if suddenly Starfield gets like a collector's edition released on PS5. It's $70. It's the game plus the DLC, and there it is. You can play it now on PS5 if you want. Like, it wouldn't really be that surprising, and it would be a really smart way to try and like squeeze whatever juice you can still get out of this thing that's been out now for how long? You know,
Right.
it's no different. Really, it is no different to me than what I love how PlayStation does it. It's like, look, you're in the PlayStation ecosystem. You bought this hardware, so you have the capabilities of playing all these games day one. We won't give them to you at a subscription fee. You'll still have to pay full price, but you can play all these games. And then a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it takes, we got all those initial sales and stuff like that we were going to get out of this. It's now reached somewhat of a plateau. Why don't we push this to another market? So you put it out on PC and you get PC players to buy the game and get to experience, and more people experiencing games is a net positive, I think, just about no matter what. If you want to see uh, a game get like more love and you want to see it, have the opportunity to like pursue a sequel or something like that, like sometimes it needs like that additional proof. Sometimes it needs to be better than just a zombie horde game that has some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard, So, yeah.
This is kind of the direction I would like to see the entire industry move into. I know this won't happen. I think Sony's a little too hardline for this, but you make a good point in people need to have value in loyalty to one brand. Like, I bought your hardware, I should have some sort of
Benefit.
that somebody who bought a PlayStation shouldn't have. And I think that benefit is like subscription services, like Game Pass. So the way that I would really like to see the market move is there will still be different consoles. There will be PlayStations and honestly, I think Nintendo's going to keep doing what they're doing. They've got no reason to get in this. They should keep making Mario games and only have it on Nintendo. So they're exempt to this. But like PlayStation and Xbox really should be releasing their games, and I'm not saying day one, just eventually, to other consoles. Okay, your benefit is you get to play the game for the first year before somebody on PlayStation. There's an added benefit. But also, it's on Game Pass. So you just choose what ecosystem you like. Do you like Game Pass or do you like the PlayStation Plus collection? or do you like the first party games more? And your benefit is you save money because you're not going to have to buy the games outright, and you get them first. But like you said, it has the opportunity to go to another platform, grow even more, and you know, I think games get ultimately better the more people play them.
Mm-hmm. And you have the
And
added
that,
benefit of like putting it on and getting to a player base that didn't have the opportunity to play the game, and now you have the opportunity to try and sway that user's like bias in your favor, because like if it's such a great experience, right? Like, oh my god, God of War 2018 was so fantastic. I am going to get the next PlayStation console because I want to play the next God. I want to know that I can play the next God of War game day one. You know, you have that potential with like doing this sort of thing. And you know, I think we were kind of saying it too. I think there's certain games that just like shouldn't make that jump. You know, I think it like doesn't make sense. But you know, to try and come up with like a few like PlayStation IPs that makes sense to try and push across, like honestly, Horizon doesn't like I know people love to like make it out to be this like flagship PlayStation IP, but in my opinion, it's like Naughty Dog is and Santa Monica, and outside of that, I really don't get why it matters a ton. And
right.
I would say Ratchet and Clank because it's just such a long-standing um, series. But like, you know, the Spider-Man games, fuck it, who cares? I get it. It's the whole Sony license and stuff, so you might as well like milk it for what you have. Um, but yeah, like Ghost of Tsushima, um, Knack, Gravity Rush, like fuck it, get them out to other people. Um, I only see a benefit to it, and it's such a shame because like I feel like I think someone talked about when we were like predicting this year, but it's like we don't see risks anymore when it comes to like content creation or media creation. You know, whether it's across movies, TV, but like specifically in video games, it's all about these like big budget games anymore. Nobody takes a risk on a game like Gravity Rush or Knack. You know, we'll never see, I feel like, something like that again. You know,
Yeah,
it's
there's
all
just
solely focused on, you know, the big narratives and stuff from Sony. They don't try to do anything that's just like, you know, concrete genie to like really cut deep. It's like we'll never see something like that again, I feel like.
yeah. And it's funny because I was thinking about games that I've played in this generation that were really different. And the first one that came to mind was 12 Minutes.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember that game at all.
Yep.
But that was just a small studio. Like, I think they were published by Annapurna, which, like, is usually a good marker of success. But,
Yeah.
um, like, the mechanic of that game was just so interesting. But yeah, I mean, every Xbox game is the same. I mean, that's just something you cannot deny. Xbox has zero innovation in their stories. But what they put out is usually solid. But
Hmm.
you should know you're going to play a first person something. Um, the racing games are solid, but they're never going to change. I think Forza Horizon is cool, but that was an innovation made in the 360 era. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is gaming getting boring?
It's getting predictable, I think.
Is that why AI is going to be building all the games for the next 20 years?
It's because it's easy to predict what it is that needs to go to market and stuff.
Well, you feed every game that you've produced, like you have it play every game that you've produced and say, okay, now make another game.
Yeah.
Going to be that simple at some point, I think.
Yeah, the need for variety and creativity is I think it's like starting to hit an all-time high, because I feel like we had a decent bit of it on the last console, and tail end of that console into now, is it feels like we're getting fed a lot of the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think I think at its core, the argument against like releasing outside of your own console, it all just comes down to kind of like bullshit, dumb console war stuff more than anything.
Yeah.
You know, and console war and fanboying and stuff like that at its core is the concept of like I just want to feel like I got value for my purchase. But I think there again, like I think there's a way for you to feel comfortable in that statement and to still have the opportunity for growth on a specific game. And yeah, man, if there's not a more perfect example of a game that I think is like perfect for that idea, it's Hi-Fi Rush. You know, it's like small, relatively like unassuming, you know, and
Yeah.
has the capabilities of like just doing so much if it gets into the right hands. And case in point is even in a small pool of like, because when you release an exclusive, that's what you're doing. You're limiting your reach. It's still managed to get all of these high praises and stuff like that, right? So can only go further in that regard. So I think we've said it before, and hopefully we don't have a ton of acquisitions to talk about this year. But as gaming goes, it's all but inevitable. But like, consolidating and stuff like that really is only going to hurt the industry. Finding ways to branch out and expand and get other people to play your games and stuff like that can only I feel like there can only be a positive from that. I really find it hard to think about the negatives outside of pissing off the just most vocal minority possible.
Yeah, I think really the solution in my head is stick to platform exclusivity in terms of like Game Pass and the PlayStation collection. Um and know that you're not going to have the $70 price tag
Mm-hmm.
to play the game, but the people who bought the other console will. But I think that's I would rather have to pay the premium than not have the option.
Right. 100%. 100%.
And like the premium not be a $500 console on top of a $70 game.
Right. Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Um. Yeah. It's just so interesting, and obviously, like we don't even know what's truly going to happen, but it'll definitely be interesting. It'll be interesting to see all of the hot takes on it, but I think at the end of the day, um, one, it's not worth getting worked up over, and two, um, there's plenty of benefit to glean from it.
Yeah.
Um, anything else? Anything else about? Oh, also, the one thing I was going to mention is back when I was saying how like uh, you know people think Xbox doesn't think about these things, and they just kind of like fly by the seat of their pants. If you remember the during the whole FTC and stuff like that, when Xbox accidentally released a ton of their own like comms and stuff like that without the redactions, there was that email that Phil Spencer had wrote about, potentially trying to acquire Nintendo, right? And like people really took that and ran with it. But I think the key thing in that was he said, like, my goal is to get Nintendo to realize that there is value outside of just having their games on their hardware. So like there's value in, and so, it's something that they like, that like clearly is like thought about, right? Like there is absolutely more value out there. It's just a matter of like I think for Nintendo, like you were saying, like hoarding Mario is probably actually the right decision, because that's all you need. You need to just promise one Mario game, and you're selling consoles, like you're selling hardware like hotcakes at that point. Um, but yeah, like there's other opportunities for sure, to branch out and to hit other player bases and stuff.
Make Metroid multi-platform.
That'd be sick.
Maybe then you would get some those games would actually be coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for Nintendo, like, yeah, keep Mario, keep Zelda. Anything else, like, and maybe that's what Microsoft's doing here. They're trying to set the example. You know, have their probably best performing game last year, which is amazing to say,
Mm-hmm.
and put it on their console.
Yeah. And again, I think it makes sense for like those, again, for like those types of games. It would maybe be hard for a long-standing franchise to it'd be weird. It'd feel funny to see. It feels funny to see Crash on Xbox, right? Like
Yeah,
people like will make that joke, even though Crash was no longer a console exclusive. I think as early as the GameCube. Um, but yeah, it's just it's there's definitely a nice mix to be able to do this, I think, right, and to have it feel and to receive the most benefit from it.
yeah.
Um, all right. Well, I think that does it.
Developer Direct. We're not going to bother talking about that because it's today.
Yeah, because it's today, and
Yeah.
what we know, I guess, is there something that you're especially excited for? I think Indiana Jones, we're supposed to get more information about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Indiana Jones. I gotta be honest with you, I hope they have a release date for Hellblade because I'm sick of that being like Xbox's like maiden game right now.
It's at every single event. We see
Yeah, it's
more
like
and
we
more and
get it.
more. Yeah.
It's coming out.
And it
Just
looks
because you're showing
fantastic.
it, yeah, does not like we get it. We know this is coming out. What else are you doing?
Yeah.
But I think the rather far fetched uh, thought that I've seen right now is that they're going to show Forza Horizon 6.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I think it's a little too soon for that. Like we know that'll probably come out in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we'll see it over the summer.
I was gonna say maybe we see it at their Summer Games Fest show.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
They might at least say like I think it's a pretty known fact that they are working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So they might like just say like yeah, we're definitely doing this, but I don't think they're going to show anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what, like, I haven't admittedly looked to see too much else at like too much else that's been like confirmed, but yeah, I'm excited to hopefully see some more stuff that they showed over the past summer. I thought that showcase was incredible and had me really hyped for a lot of stuff that they were working on. So I'm excited to see if we have any more updates on those games and where they're at and when maybe they're expected to actually release.
I just hope they show something for Contraband
Yeah.
because they haven't in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least say it's dead. I don't know.
One or
Yeah, I
the
don't
other.
know. People think something's gonna get shadow dropped again, and it's like, come on now. I think if anything's gonna get shadow dropped, it's gonna be Hellblade.
Yeah, it'd be nice if something got shadow dropped, but I think that being the expectation is
Yeah, and
you're
I don't
you're
want that
setting
to
yourself up
be.
to be disappointed.
And then people are gonna be pissed and say Xbox sucks, and it's like, well, you had an unreasonable expectation just
Of
because they
course.
did it once and
Yeah.
it was phenomenal. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see.
100%.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. And
For the first time in a
obviously
while.
that'll be the probably the main thing and maybe the only thing that we really talk about next week. So tune in for the recap there. But yeah, other than that, thank you all so much for listening. If you could leave us a rating or review wherever you do listen to the podcast, it'd be greatly appreciated. And if you could just share it with a friend, that'd also be great. And we'll talk to you next week and talk about the developer direct.